It's Monday noon, the time is here. Shane and I'll be loud and clear. Pacific vibes, we bring the heat. AI agents can't be beat. AI agents hour, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Solving problems, we do it live. Stay informed, it's a vibe. Building agents that work for you. Making moves, we see it through. Every week, a brand new show. Tag along and watch your knowledge grow. AI agents out, let's go. News and guests, the big show. Answering questions, we arrive. Every Monday, come alive. We want reviews, but only if it's a 5. We share the drama, we got the drive. Stay in the loop, it's the place to be. Shane and Abhi setting you free. Agents Hour, here to stay. Tune in Mondays, make your day. From the news to the problem solved. AI world, get involved.
Every week in AI, something insane happens.
And there's so much drama. Every Monday, we break it down live.
We do the news, we bring on guests, building in the space.
And we go deep into the stuff that actually matters.
Agents Hour, every Monday, noon Pacific.
Follow. Don't miss it. Peace.
This is Agents Hour with Shane Thomas and Abhi Iyer.
Hello, everyone. We are live, and all right, we're here. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Agents Hour. I'm Shane. I'm here, as always, with Abhi. How's it going, dude?
What's up?
And if you've been following the show for a while, you know that we often mention producer Jan. He is not here today. He has other things going on in his life because, who knows, why he has a life outside of the show. I don't know, but he's allowed to, I guess. And so he's not here. And so for the first time in what seems like, I guess
Forever.
It's been like 8 months, I'm back behind the control board. So if things are rocky like that start, you know who to blame. It is not.
We need you, Jan.
It's not producer Jan's fault. It is my fault. But we're here. We're live. We're going to have a good show today. It's going to be reasonably short. We just got some news to cover, a few other topics we want to talk about. Quite a bit of news, but it's not quite as jam-packed as always. But there are some definitely juicy topics for us to dig into. Well, anyways,
you can tell how far we've come because we didn't have a control board before or any like ad reels or whatever, and we don't actually control them, So it's like where are things at?
And we also started late because I was trying to find all the buttons and the videos, and clearly I'm in over my head here. But hey, we do this every week. The show must go on.
Yeah.
And so we're here.
Yeah.
How was last week, dude? We were in person in San Francisco.
It was fun, dude. Busy ass week. We had a hackathon on Wednesday with Elastic. We had our bunch of internal things going on as well. Pretty awesome week. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, it was fun. John, one of our engineers, is in town as well, so we get to hang out with YJ. That was fun. It's always a good time. I think really it's always just nice. I'm not in San Francisco all the time. I'm there quite a bit, at least every month for, a week usually. But it's just a different kind of excitement. I'm always happy to leave, but I'm glad to be there, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you can feel the energy, and it's like
Yeah.
I want to be part of that, but I don't want to be part of that every single day, because
As someone who does it more often, you definitely get tired from all the energy, let's say.
yeah, I mean it's good, but also can be distracting too, right? It's a
Yeah.
balance of you want to be tapped into what's going on, what people care about, and you also need to get things done. And so there's
Yeah.
a tough balance sometimes when there's so much going on. I was excited about the hackathon though, just seeing you know, some people who hadn't ever used Mastra, some people that had used Mastra, but able to ship something in a reasonably short time. And hackathons are just, they hit different when you have AI because you can actually show something real where
Yeah.
before you couldn't even do a 4-hour hackathon. You couldn't show anything if this was 2 years ago. And so it's always more fun, I think, today to see. Also, a lot of it's fake because it's not real. You didn't actually build anything real in 4 hours, but it does look pretty damn real. And that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, 4 hours is quite short, but we've been to these 24-hour hackathons, the multi-day ones, and you have these like mini startups that get created after it, essentially. For the really good ones. But yeah, there's definitely a hackathon culture in SF.
For sure.
So funny enough, so I'm in a different location today, y'all. I'm at my childhood bedroom. I'm visiting my parents, and I was gonna get on the plane yesterday, and I found this site. So I'm gonna show you guys something. It's called, and we're talking about SF. So there's this site called SF Isms. I'm gonna share it right now. SF Isms. It's made by actually a friend of the show and a YC founder from Koyal AI. His name's Mehul. If you guys remember this stunt that happened last year where the only way to get more traction on X was to turn yourself into a girl. He's the one who started that with the account called Mihu, where he turned himself, same picture, into a girl and got crazy traction. So this is the person we're talking about. He started this website called SF Isms, and there's a lot of good SFisms. I'm gonna go to the ones that are like, let's say, safe for work. But 996 is on here, AI Psychosis, Balboa Cafe. This one's funny because we were talking about Balboa Cafe last week, the mythical marina bar where SF goes to finally meet someone nobody ever does. The espresso martini is real though, and everyone will be back next Friday to check again.
Yeah.
100% so
Th-
true.
That is the vibe. You got to get
That
the,
is the vibe.
the lantern of the chandelier espresso martini or whatever they call it, the rack of
Yeah.
espresso martinis. That's the staple from Balboa.
We have a founder mode. Okay, all of these things. I found one that we were playing around
Goblin
with.
mode. You got to have
Goblin
goblin mode.
mode from high agency. Like all these dumb fucking words we use all the time. And I honestly, we find ourselves using them, whether someone told us or not. Maybe it's just like the energy of the area. So I just because I found so we were talking last week about how we want more users to give us issues than pull requests. Issues are way better than pull requests. And then so I did a tweet about that last week. Sam also did a tweet, which was like essentially the conclusion was like, don't be a meat proxy. So when I saw this on SF Isms, I was like, oh shit. Like that's exactly what we were talking about last week. And so I posted it yesterday. Meat proxy. This is in SFisms. I love the design here. It makes it look like legit. A person who forwards AI generated text, code, or other output without reading, understanding, or validating it. The the person acts only as a relay between the AI system and the intended recipient. So this tweet has gone viral, which I did not intend. It was just for me to shit post, but my phone has not stopped buzzing since yesterday. It's over almost at 300K views, 7.8K likes, etc. But it has definitely started a discussion. Right? There's a lot of comments here, a lot of quote tweets. A lot of people that I respect from the past are like, they are taking this post very seriously, which is cool. That was not my intention, though. I meet proxied everybody, right? This is an AI generated thing. I meet proxied to everybody else. It's also written wrong. There's two trigrams in the sentence. So anyway, like this was generated by AI as well, and I meet proxied y'all. So I guess that's the ultimate irony and meta thing. But I'll leave it to you, Shane. What do you think about this
Yeah.
concept or term?
I mean, okay. So first of all, this has come up because I've seen too many examples of this where someone says, the worst thing. I think the thing that always makes me the most mad is when someone will say something and say, Claude said this. I haven't validated it.
Yeah.
And my thought is, I'm not an idiot. I can send it to Claude myself if I wanted to. It's like, I thought, the point is like you should validate it before you send it, because all you're doing is you're throwing work over the wall to someone else. Because AI generated text is hard to read sometimes. It's dense. It's actually like a taxing to read output from an LLM and try to understand it because of just how it typically talks. Not every model is the same, but most follow a similar pattern, and it's actually hard to read. It does
Yeah.
take effort to read that type of writing. So if you're going to send me a wall of text, I hope you've at least validated it first. Now, there are some times where I think it's totally fine to send over something that the LLM generated if you've read it and it makes sense. I have an example today where Tyler was asking on our team about something that a customer wanted, and I pulled up the transcript. I had an agent like summarize it. I read through every line of it, and I said, yes, this gets, I was in the call. This is roughly what the customer wants.
Yeah.
I cut out some of it and I sent it over. And I think that kind of thing is fine because I did some actual work. But I think the whole idea of like throwing it over the wall is not fine.
Yeah.
Now, I did see one comment in here that I thought was interesting because one person said, actually, I think it's okay because we used to have this site, let me Google that for you.
Yep. I
And
saw
where you'd
that
send
comment.
someone the thing and it would Google it. And I thought that was interesting. But the caveat here is I have done this before with, someone who's less technical, who I know doesn't know how to use AI, just like someone doesn't, at one point maybe didn't use search engines very effectively. Sure, send them some basic information. Again, I validated it, but I'll send it over. But anyone that I'm working with on a day-to-day basis, we're all using AI every day. We know how to
Yeah.
use it. There's no doubt that I know how to hook my agent to your MCP server and get the information, right? Like I can do that. So you should expect, if you're dealing with a technical person, that you should be doing some work or you shouldn't do it at all. If you don't have the time to
Yeah.
actually do the work, don't just send over the result because you're not saving them time. You're actually wasting time because they have to put an effort now to read your response.
100%.
And they have no context of how you got there. At least if they did it themselves, they'd have the context.
There was another comment about how this is not a new term, and I totally agree with this example. So back in the day, you would be in, let's say you are one step away from your manager, so you have like a step level manager. So there's like, your manager, step level, you. And oftentimes, if that person is not good at their job, they are a meat proxy between the upper manager's question to you and back, right? So these have existed, let's say, forever, but it's way more prevalent now when people are just throwing Claude sessions over the wall for you.
Yeah. So Lemmy in the chat says, at Reed Jordan did a video describing this, but called it boneless meat layer for LLM. Yeah. All right. Similar concept,
Yeah.
similar
Same
idea.
concept.
Well, we're just a flush that's like passing LLM tokens between each other at this point. So yeah, don't be a meat proxy. Use LLMs, use the agents, but
Understand it.
Please understand it, parse it, do a little bit of the work so you can save the person on the other end the time and the effort if it's important to you. Otherwise, don't do it. That's my feedback.
One trick I like to use is if I do have this dense amount of text and I understand it, I read it, I ask it for just like bullet points, one sentence bullet point to summarize this stuff, and I'll send the summary. And then if you want to double click into anything, we can talk about it. But this is like just the high level thing. Like this is what we're gonna do or whatever.
Yeah. Put a little work into it. Put the effort goes a long way. Otherwise,
you'll look a lot smarter if you do that.
Yeah, because you can tell when someone's just sending AI generated things, or I've also seen, my agent wrote this PR. I haven't reviewed it yet. Can you review it?
Yeah.
What the fuck? No.
Yeah. Don't do that.
If you think it's a valuable PR, review it. It's otherwise don't do it. And I can have my agent do it if we want to. So I think there's again, it's a brave new world. There's a little bit of tact in how you should be using these things. Don't throw work on other people. Use it to save this. These are meant to save time, right? But you still have to do some of the work yourself. You can't just offshore or offshoot it to someone else all the time.
Yeah, like another way we use it is like if we're like an incident response right now, we'll say like, "Oh, my agent said this, but I need to verify," because that information could be useful for someone else who already knows who could use that as like a clue for what's going on because you obviously don't know. So, it's nice to have caveats too like, "Hey, this might be something, but I'm gonna go double check. But here's what I'm looking into." We used to do this before too. We'd have thoughts. We would say, "Hey, I'm gonna go explore these three things, but I don't know if it's true or not." And then you'd go. Now you can just get that from your LLM, paste it, and then go validate it. So there's ways to be a good meat proxy.
Yeah, exactly. There are certainly times where if someone else knows the area of the code base and you're not sure, but you have a reasonable level of confidence that it could be good, you should have at least done some of the work though, so you can have an intelligent conversation about it rather than
Yeah.
just saying, "Can you validate this? Does this look good to you?" I don't know. So I think part of it is we still have to keep our critical thinking skills. You should still be doing some of that work. I know it's tempting to just send over, sling PRs around and sling text around, but don't be a meat proxy.
Don't
Do
be
the
a meat
work.
proxy.
All right. And with that, this is a live show. Thanks, Lemmy, for dropping a comment in YouTube, I guess. But we're on X, we're on YouTube. I think we're on LinkedIn today. So feel free to drop in a comment. We will pull some of them up live. We will discuss it. If you have not already reviewed the show, please go to YouTube, give us a like, give us a subscribe, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, live streams, whatever. We do appreciate the likes, the subscribes. That helps other people like yourself find the show. And with that, I suppose we should probably just get into the news. Should we do it?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, like every week, we do the news. Welcome to Agents Hour. Today we have a pretty short episode considering some of the past weeks we've had, but there are some big juicy topics that we do want to dive into. So why don't we go ahead and get into it? All right, a little preview for the show. Let's start with this post. This is from someone named Ali. And she says, "I really don't want to use your agent. I want to use my agent to use your thing." And this got a ton of engagement. A lot of people, were commenting, resonating with it. Some disagreed. A lot of people agreed. But the question is, in this new age, do you just want to use your agent and connect to someone else's tool, maybe through MCP or whatever? Or do you want that tool to just build the agent themselves and you use that? What's your take?
So I agree with this statement for things where like the boundary of the product is also on my end, right? Like if it's a coding thing or infrastructure or whatever. But here is where I disagree. I would rather have an agent in Google Slides than have my agent talk to Google Slides. You know what I mean? Where these products are encapsulated, like Descript. Maybe I want to have my own agent, but no, I'd rather just be in Descript, just making moves in this thing. But where I think this comes into play, if I were to make it more general, if I also have industry experience in the product, I want my agent in there. If I have no business doing that in the first place, like making music or anything, I want to use their agent. That's where I kind of draw the line. What about you?
Yeah, so you're saying because they would conceivably be better at building an agent in the domain that you're not experienced
Yes.
in, and you wouldn't be able to guide the agent to the result. it's probably better if they just build it, they control the context rather than you try to control the context.
Correct.
I think both use cases are valid, and I will ultimately think it depends, very similar to you. For instance, at first, an example is Posthog. Like, I don't use Posthog every day. I use it quite a bit, but not every day. And I've noticed that the agent in Posthog is actually pretty good. Like, I hadn't used it very often, and it was pretty good. It does what I need it to. And now I don't have to connect the Posthog MCP that probably has 50 tools to my agent. I do worry that over time, your agent might get worse and you're not validating it, or you don't know it because you're just slamming a bunch of MCPs in there, which adds to
Yeah.
the context. And what the average person doesn't understand, if I have 100 MCPs connected to my agent, that's not very good, right? Like, that's going to impact the results. It's going to slow down the agent. There's more tokens. All that stuff, factors in, and the average person doesn't really understand that. So I think there is this risk of, at least today, and maybe this changes over time, but if you just connect your agent to every tool possible, now your agent has to try to do every single thing. And I think that you might get worse results, and you might not know why your agent seemingly got dumber over time. You might think it's the model, you might think it's the way you're using it, but maybe it's just your tool context is getting polluted because you're connecting so many damn MCP servers to it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think specialized agents are useful, because you don't have to worry about that. You only go in there some of the time. I don't use Posthog every day. If I did, I would much rather connect it to my agent and just use the MCP, right? Another thing is like Notion. Notion's agent, I think it kind of sucks. And I use Notion almost every day. So yeah, I'll just use the MCP and it works, right? I understand what I want it to do. I can guide it, but I'm taking on that, all those extra tools in in my agent, right? Especially if I just like connect it to my agent and I don't have different, settings or profiles or whatever, or projects that have like different configurations. So I think in general, I agree with Ali on for a lot of the tools, but not for everything. Like, they're specialized
Yeah.
tools. Just let them build the agent. They're the experts. Make the agent really damn good. And maybe someday my agent can talk to your agent and not have to care about the context, just like passing, messages across. But for now, I'll use the agent when I need to.
If your agent is built in Mastra, I'll use it. There you go.
There you go. There you have it. All right, we got to talk about, I don't know if it's 0x alpha. I've been saying OX alpha, but we got to talk about 0x alpha because it's a bit of a mystery, and it kind of just hit the timeline later last week around what is this model that just seemingly popped up within OpenRouter. So this is from MTS Live. It says, "Situation explained. A stealth model on OpenRouter is beating Fable and Sol on coding, and nobody knows who made it. OX Alpha has a 1 million token context window, text, image, and video input, free for a week with capacity for 100 trillion tokens a day." And I think that's what blew people's minds, because they didn't understand where could 100 trillion tokens a day come from. That compute doesn't just exist lying around.
Yeah.
There's only a few companies that, in theory, could have that capacity.
I love the conspiracy theories that have come from this.
Yeah, there have been a lot, and we'll talk about some of them. So this Brandon Carl says, whoever is offering 0x Alpha had the ability to offer the entire token capacity of Google immediately, 100 trillion tokens a day, which led to a lot of speculation that, was this a Google model? The Gemini team was posting some kind of obscure things, making people think maybe this is a Gemini model. Could this be the new Google? How good is this model? People are starting to run benchmarks on it.
Yeah.
This post says, WTF, Ben ran this mystery model through 10 deep SWE tasks and it scored over 80% versus 65% for Fable and 52% for GPT-5.6 Sol. This is insane. Probably a Chinese company, either a new GLM or Kimi model, I reckon. I did see some posts that said they ran more of the tasks. It didn't score this well on everything. I think this was a bit cherry-picked. I think overall it seems like what I've seen, it actually performs not as good as Fable and 5.6. So maybe it is Gemini. I don't know. But it's not. At least not according to this post, which says breaking the stealth model 0x alpha is z.ai. So it's a GLM. Everyone else is guessing it from tokenizer vibes and emoji rates. I made the server say its own name out loud, sent it one malformed request, and it threw a Java stack trace naming its own internal. What do you think? Is it GLM?
Dude, I mean, it'd be it'd be good for the narrative that it is, but I'm really hoping it is Google. But I think it might be ZAI.
And this is all like some speculation, right? But
Yeah.
it seems that it's a smaller model, but it does really well on at least the benchmarks that people have run. Not
Yeah.
Fable level though, but their theory is that this is almost like a GLM flash type model or a smaller model
Yeah.
that maybe is on par or better than the last like GLM 5.2, but is a smaller model. And so that is how Z.ai can serve 100 trillion tokens a day, is that it's just significantly more efficient because it's so much smaller.
Yeah, there are other indicators that would lead for this to be Z. So like OpenCode offered this through OpenCode Go for free or whatever. And they were tracking the token usage. People are using it. If it was Google, anybody would have to sign a bunch of NDAs. We have done this. I don't know if I'm not allowed to say that I've done it, but okay. But you have to sign NDAs to use future models. So I don't think it's Google for that reason alone. They're not going to give this away in stealth that other people can use without tons of like bureaucracy. So it's got to be an open model. That's what my guess is. And if this evidence is damning enough, then it probably is Z.
Yeah. And I think we will eventually find out. I think the hype has died down from the model a bit because I think people realized it wasn't as good as
Yeah.
what they originally thought once benchmarks started coming out. So I don't think it's frontier. It's not a new frontier model, but if it is, a GLM model and it's much smaller, if you think back to, the Qwen model that came out, which we will talk about, and how that's, like a small, basically on device, you can run it on your own computer model and it benchmarks very well. Well, then maybe GLM has done the same type of thing where it's a smaller
Yeah.
model. We don't know the size yet, but maybe they can compete with some of the close to the frontier without being frontier sized.
This like stealth release stuff, it takes the community it like bewilders the community, it takes them by storm. So I'm curious how many stealth models we can go through before it like loses its luster, Or is it always going to be a really hype way to debut a model to give it out in stealth first?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a marketing aspect to it for sure.
Yeah. Will the Frontier ever give it out in stealth? I wonder.
I feel like they don't have to, right? They get the marketing
Yeah.
just by, their marketing is it got banned by the government. That's their
Yeah.
marketing stunt. So Qwen breaks the size curve. We talked about this a little bit last week, but if you look at the artificial analysis agentic index on the Qwen model, so it's a little hard to see here, but Qwen 3.8 27B is actually ahead of models like Opus 4.8, ahead of 5.6 Luna. So it is, ahead of GLM 5.2. It's ahead of these much larger models, right? And this is only a 27 billion parameter model.
Yeah.
The idea is like if you told someone, 18 months ago, or not even, you told someone 6 months ago that they could have, an Opus level model on their device, like on their computer running, obviously still needs to be a decently, has to be decent sized, right? You still got to have some hardware to run that. But I think people would freak out, running
Yeah.
an Opus level model on consumer hardware is pretty insane. And it
Yeah.
makes me wonder, like, how many tasks do we even need to pay for tokens anymore? Will teams just have like will everyone just have their own like reasonably good model on their own machine that they run most tasks to, and then the hard tasks get sent to the frontiers? I don't know.
We have a thing in the chat here from Lemmy. If you want to pull it up.
Yeah. So Lemmy says OpenAI did stealth models previously, Cursor as well, and said maybe it's Grok 4.7. Some speculation
Maybe.
there.
Yeah, we did have stealth models from OpenAI Cursor, but I feel like the distribution has changed. All these routers that exist now, but we'll see.
So let's talk about open weight models a little bit more. So this is from Guillermo from Vercel. Says today's a record day for open weight share of tokens on Vercel AI Gateway, and Open Routers posted similar things. So this is not just Vercel. This is across a lot of the popular AI LLM routers. And so August 22nd, 62% of tokens were open weight models. And in June 24th, so about 2 months ago, it was only 28.4%. That's a pretty
Huge.
wild increase. I am curious on, is it, because there's two ways you can kind of read this. Maybe a lot of people moved from frontier models to open models, or maybe there's just a lot more tokens being sent through and a higher proportion of those tokens are now becoming open models. So
Yeah.
they don't really share like total token growth count or anything. So you can't really determine if it's, are closed models in, are they total, did the total count go down? I doubt it, but it probably just didn't grow as fast as the open models. And I think if
Yeah.
you're using frontier tokens, a lot of people, the majority of people are going right through the providers, right? Not through a router.
Yeah. I mean, I would suspect this too. Like, it's going to be more open because, you are not paying max coding plans on these gateways. So, and there are a lot more open models to choose for price. So, cool.
We got to talk about Slack code. So this is
Slack
from Mark
code.
Benioff on August 19th. It says, "Don't code alone. Slack code is live. Humans and agents. Same channel, same work. Launching today with agents from Anthropic, GitHub, Cognition, Vercel. This is real multiplayer coding. See it at Dreamforce." What do you think of this?
I mean, if their website was up that day, I would have been more happy about it, but it was down for like the whole day.
Yeah. I mean, they said see it live, and then people were saying it wasn't quite live. But if you
Yeah.
watch the video, you can go check out the tweet. There's like basically a code panel that pops up in a conversation, right? You're basically prompting in Slack and you're just having it write code. I think, we have mentioned that coding, from your mobile device is the dream, and Slack has a pretty good mobile app. So now you can, in theory, code from anywhere within Slack. I'm not convinced that Slack's going to win this on its own. I feel like, if you have ever used Devin's Slack agent is pretty good. I know Linear's investing heavily in their agent as well within Slack. I think obviously Slack is trying to compete with, all the apps that integrate in with it and trying to just do it themselves. Maybe Slack wants to own a piece of the coding pie in some ways, but we'll see how many people actually use the Slack version, or if it's like, there's always those things where there is a version in the app itself, but people use third parties because third party
Yeah.
ones just end up being better. And so I think we'll probably see some of that as well. If I were to
Could
guess.
you imagine a world where Slack bans third-party agent apps just so you can use Slack code?
I feel like they can't, right? It's like Salesforce is kind of built on this ecosystem of like you can build sales. I mean, they have a proprietary language, of course, but
Yeah.
it's all built on like this marketplace and all these different apps and all this different it's like so complicated. They have all these different companies that just provide Salesforce type services. I feel like they wouldn't want to go back and change that specifically for Slack. I think they'd
Yeah.
want Slack to be open, Slack to be the communication tool, but maybe not. Maybe they're looking at all the, the revenue from all these coding agent companies and saying maybe we can grab a piece of that.
Is this GA yet? Can we use this? I don't see it in our Slack.
Yeah, well, we didn't go to Dreamforce this year, so
Oh, that's why.
I mean,
Damn.
maybe We should reach out and see if we can get it turned on. I'm guessing there's a way to get it, but maybe you have to know someone right now. I don't know if you're in the chat. Are you going to use Slack code? Would you use it? Let us know. So there's been a lot of talk recently, and especially the last week, around just legal as a breakout use case for AI. So Harvey has introduced Tenant, which is the first model post-trained for legal. So Harvey's actually not just using frontier models, or they're actually training their own or post-training their own. So Tenant is a Kimi K3 base that we post-trained with Fireworks on a corpus of publicly available legal data, synthetic data, and human expert data simulating long horizon legal work. So this is pretty wild. That means there are actually companies that started as just, you could call them like a model wrapper, right?
Yeah.
They were just an application on top of a model. And now I would say Cursor was the same way, right? Like Cursor didn't start as building its own LLMs. It just was kind of like an agent that used whatever model you gave it. I think Harvey was kind of similar, right? It picked a model under the hood or whatever. But now I think they're seeing, one, they don't want to compete with Claude. They know if they send all their things, all their data through Claude or OpenAI, that they might eventually be competing with them. So they kind of want to own their own destiny. And now with some of these open weight models, it's becoming easier and more possible for teams to do that.
I was on a panel with a principal engineer from Harvey, and we were talking about the eval loop. And Harvey has so much data now on different cases and different users. They have so much. They have huge eval suites. They have this whole like discipline in making sure their evals are good, because they're what we call a real world agent. They impact the real world through, I mean, obviously law, I guess, does impact people. And I think anyone who is a real world agent that has a lot of data, eval suites, and actually takes observability seriously will be doing the same thing.
Yep. And I think there's different methods for doing it, right? Are you just doing like traditional like fine tuning, post training, reinforcement learning? I mean, there are different practices for how you could pull this off, but I do think that it is getting easier, and especially if you have a real world use case where you're collecting data first, eventually you can use that data and train potentially a smaller model or a cheaper model to do it as well, or maybe again a close to frontier model that can then perform better, and you own the outputs, right? You own that now.
Yeah, Kimi K3 base is not a bad model to start from, to then train with your company, let's say your company swag in there, and then you can now make more money, right? You put some money into training, but now your inference costs are way lower than what they used to be if you're using Fable or something before. I would say this is kind of a threat to frontier usage in companies with data. Obviously, you have to have a practice in your company to harness this data and do things with it. You probably have to have an AI squad like Harvey does. There are a lot of costs that go into this, but it's not about what happens now. It's about the horizon of, once you have this, your margin will get better over time.
And if you think about models getting smaller, right? We talked about Qwen 27B. The smaller the model, the easier it is to train it, right? So it's going to only continue. The price of training your own model is going to continue to be compressed downwards, right?
Yeah.
So I think over time you're going to see even more of this. And Harvey's has been, kind of on the leading edge of a lot of things, right? As being a prime example of a successful agent out in the wild in a specific niche or specific vertical. But continuing to talk a little bit about law and the legal use case. This is a post from A16Z, and it's, a little bit small here. Maybe you can't really zoom in, but I'll kind of read the results, and that is that AI power users are showing up outside of tech, the fastest growing codex adopters since February. Legal is 108x. So basically they're just figuring out enterprise job title when they sign up for Codex. And in the legal use case, it's 108x since February. Sales is
Makes sense.
41x. Recruiting is 41x. Marketing 26x. Healthcare 24x. And then coding, which, is what we're all probably using it for, is still impressive. It's 5x, but that's tiny compared to 108x.
Yeah. Dude, I want to see all of these go even higher. Like healthcare needs to be in the 100x. I actually don't really care about sales, to be honest, but law, healthcare, real world shit, they need to be in the 1000x. That's where we should put our energy into.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason coding is lower, the reason sales is lower is because those have been kind of really common use cases.
Yeah.
Sales agents have been around for a while now. A lot of people, they're a known quantity, so maybe less people are, they've already been using them, so the growth rate isn't as high. But it still is wild to think that even in coding, it was 5x, right? So
Yeah.
there's still, it means that most people aren't using these tools on a daily basis. There's still a lot of room for it to grow. We have not hit the peak by any means. And I think it's going to continue to expand outside of just engineers and developers into other places.
Yep.
Justin says, and related to our last topic, once training becomes mainstream, I think we'll see a lot of crazy stuff. Like when the normal user can train their models, it'll be revolutionary. I agree. I think that just like it is now pretty easy for someone to build an agent, right? That was a hard thing 18 months ago to do. It's still not easy. I mean, I think anyone who's built a real world agent knows that it's actually still incredibly difficult, but the tools are there to make it quite a bit easier. I think once the models become small enough, people get hands on good enough GPUs to do it, I think the costs are going to go down, the time to do it's going to go down, and people are going to do some pretty amazing things.
And I hope people open source data sets.
Yes.
But that is very proprietary today, but it might not be tomorrow.
So let's cover some additional quick hits. This is another post from A16Z. Again, some play on the show today. But it says humans are the minority user of AI. Agents burn nearly 5 times the tokens that people do, up 14x since February. So just like, we've said in this show, you're not writing docs for humans, and then agents are, consuming docs more frequently than humans. Agents are consuming websites. I think Cloudflare announced, right, more than humans. Agents are now using tokens more than humans.
Wasn't that always the case, though? Like, don't we use AI through our agents?
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of cases it was like single turn, right? It was like single turn call and response for the longest time with ChatGPT. Like, and then you had some tools, right? But it still was just like user message. Now you get a response. And I think what this is probably charting is that an agent is deciding to like use tokens on its own, right? Is like calling to the LLMs on its own. So again, don't know, you can read the post and see exactly how it's measured. But I think that it is true that it's because the agents are running for longer, they're doing more autonomously, they're calling sub-agents, right, that are doing work on the human's behalf. Humans are becoming further disconnected from the initial query to the result that you get, right?
Yeah.
Where in the past it was, you didn't want the agent to run more than 20 seconds because you knew if it did, it probably was going to go way off track, where now people are trusting it for longer horizon tasks. This post came out on August 18th. This is from Cursor. We talked about last week Cursor origin, but they wrote this really detailed blog post called Git at Any Scale. And it's really about why it's so hard to scale Git the way it was built, and then their solution for how they have basically said they solved Git's scaling problem. They can infinitely scale it with this approach. Did you read through this?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Any big takeaways from, I read through it's pretty long. So I did not read this whole thing. I read through about half of it. and I understood about, half of what I read, so maybe I understood a quarter of it. But it definitely is um, a
I think
very detailed post around like how and it's very well done. So if you're curious on like scaling Git, and it's not just about it's just scaling in general, I think it's a really instructive post.
yeah, the main thing after reading it, main takeaway is it's kind of like what we said on the show, where it's not entirely GitHub's fault that it's had these issues, mainly because their volume is super high and their architecture started in 2008. And so to evolve over the years, to then suddenly change your architecture to supply this mass scale that they've never seen before, which is an exponential growth. It just doesn't make sense for them to take all the blame. Obviously, the market is huge factors, but it also makes this case where maybe you do need to have something like Origin or something built with current technology that's meant for this scale, because it breaks down like every architecture piece of GitHub or Git in general, and then what you need to do to scale that when it gets load. And so, yeah, I had more empathy for GitHub after reading it.
Yeah, and I think if you read it, you'll say that Cursor definitely doesn't blame GitHub, but I think this is Cursor's like write a really detailed post around why Git is hard and show that you have a very clear understanding and you can handle the scale. And it's honestly a marketing tactic as well, right?
Yeah.
It's like showing your expertise, showing why, you know, Cursor Origin has to exist, showing how you solve the problem so people can't just say, oh, like, yeah, it's easy now because you don't have the traffic. But when you get to GitHub scale, but they're trying to prove ahead of time. No, this actually is the architecture that will scale. And, unfortunately for Git, they kind of have this legacy architecture that's been set up for years now. And so I think, Cursor wants to show itself as, really have deeply thought about this problem and solved it in a way that can inspire confidence for people who want to make the shift or who are considering moving off of GitHub.
Yeah. But it's not really not to say that Cursor Origin has proved that they can scale yet. But they think with the architecture that they've done, it will.
Yeah, I mean, the theory is there. Now
The theory is there.
Does it work in practice? That's always the question.
Because they're trying to make distributed file system work, which GitHub tried and decided not to do. So we'll see.
And then this is Toby Lutke from Shopify said, that based on that last post, Git at scale has been one of the most interesting blog posts I've read in a while. It came right when I was frustrated with Shopify's internal Git system. As an exercise, I've implemented over the weekend as open source. It's a single Rust binary that you can point at any S3 type object store. It uses WAL and CAS primitives and requires no other data store. It also implements bundle URI, so large Git repos like the Shopify monorepo are very fast to download as a chain of static bundles. So there you go. They basically, built their own, open source their own kind of version of it. And again, it's vibe coded over a weekend. I don't know if I trust it, but
put it in production right now.
Yeah. I don't think Shopify's running in production on it. But it would be cool if someone did, take something like this, open source it, so a Cursor Origin of sorts could exist.
Dude, a funny comment on this post was like, yo, can you just join Cursor Origin? Like, why are you CEO of Shopify? They don't need you anymore.
And that's the show. As we said before, it was going to be a short one. You can follow us on X at Mastra. You can subscribe on YouTube, Mastra-AI. You can follow me on X at smthomas3. Follow Abhi at Abhi Iyer. We do this show every Monday, usually every Monday at least, right around noon Pacific time. We do the news. We bring on guests. We, talk some smack around some AI concepts or SF-isms occasionally. We have some fun. If you are tuning in live, thank you. We appreciate all the comments, all the love, and sometimes the hate that you give us. Any parting words before we close out, Abby?
I think we have to end where we began. Don't be a meat proxy.
Don't be a meat proxy. And with that, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Peace.
Yo, that show's a wrap. We were live in the zone. AI agents out with Shane and Abby on the throne. Did you give us that review? Only if it's a 5. Jump on the tube, make sure to like and subscribe. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Guests so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. Did you just drop in? Is this your first time? Make sure to follow us on X and go like and subscribe. Yeah, learn the principles and patterns in our books. The master.ai site, give it a look. Yeah, news so fresh, yeah, we keep you in the loop. Guests so fly, they bring the whole troop. AI on the rise, don't miss this power. Welcome to the show, it's AI Agents Hour. This is the end, we all wrapped up. Another showdown, another one coming up. AI Agents Hour's done, but the news doesn't cease. Shane and Abby, we out of here. Peace.